Welcome to Abridged, a podcast on everything Bracebridge, with your host, me, Mayor Rick Maloney. Well, welcome to Abridged. This episode, I'm pleased to have Dave Roppel, who's the manager of Ontario Power Generation out of the Gravenhurst office. Dave, I've known Dave through some contact through the municipality over time, and Dave's here to talk a little bit about OPG's hydro generation, and we'll spend some time talking about safety around hydro generation plants in our area. First of all, welcome, Dave, to Abridged.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you. Let's get right into it, and we'll take a deep dive right here. Can you explain what OPG's role is here in Muskoka and the surrounding area?
Absolutely. Ontario Power Generation plays a key role in generating clean, renewable hydroelectric power across this region. From our Gravenhurst Work Centre, we support operations across several river systems, including the Muskoka, Severn, and Moon Rivers. We manage and maintain generating facilities that harness the natural flow of water that produce electricity while closely working with our partners to balance environmental and community needs.
So you serve a lot of communities. How does your team support those communities? I know you mentioned some of the facilities you have. What is it that your role is in serving and supporting these communities?
Of course, the Gravenhurst Work Centre supports operations across this wide region and includes Muskoka, the Bracebridge, Severn Township, Bala, and Eugenia. We have the Muskoka River here in Bracebridge, and we have our Hannah, Trethewey, and South Falls generating stations. We have the Moon, Musquash River systems here in Bala and Georgian Bay. We have they have the Ragged Rapids and Big Eddy generating stations, along with the Moon Control Dam. We have the Severn River and the Big Chute generating station up in Severn Township. And last but not least, the Beaver River in Grey Highlands, where our Eugenia generating station is.
Oh, that's a pretty substantial network of responsibilities, and that's all out of the Gravenhurst office, Dave, is it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and so maybe you can kind of share a little bit about how those stations operate. How does one of these, like the Beaver River in Grey Highlands, how does that operate?
You know, what surprises me is that many people don't understand that all these stations are actually remote controlled from our Niagara Operation Control Center. Our local team, about 22 people, we focus on the maintenance, inspections, and we ensure everything's running safely on the ground. So
interesting that these operations come from one central area in Niagara. And I'm sure I'm imagining one of these great big control centers with monitors and things like that. Have you been there to the control center? You've seen what the operation looks like?
It is a very impressive operation in there, and the technology they have is fantastic.
I can imagine. And for them to be able to remotely operate, OPG's operations at all these locations, how many, like, would this facility kind of manage all of them across Ontario? Or is it just a regional area?
Yeah, so we're regionalized, and the facility in Niagara looks after all of our sites, as well as our sister stations down around the Campbellford Work Centre, and then they have the big plants down in the Niagara region.
Wow, it's impressive that it's got that kind of look of the control center for the spaceship type of thing. Like, I can imagine what that looks like. Anyway, pretty cool. I'd love to see it. Thanks for explaining kind of the operation side of what OPG does and the responsibilities they have. And, wanted to maybe talk a little bit about, now we're moving into the summer soon. Young kids will be out of school. Families will be coming to enjoy Muskoka. Families that are here will be enjoying Muskoka, and more specifically Bracebridge. Let's talk a little bit about safety, and especially when we during the peak tourism season. What should people know when they come across infrastructure, Ontario Power Generation's infrastructure? What should they be aware of? What kind of caution steps should they take when they're around these facilities?
Absolutely. So safety is critical around all hydroelectric operating stations, not just OPG ones. There's fast-moving water, changing currents, submerged hazards can be present at any time. And the thing is, it can even look calm, but that means the hazards are still there. That's why we always emphasize that you want to, obey all safety signs and barriers. Stay back from dams, spillways, and the generating stations. never enter restricted areas. These rules are there to protect people, and these really truly can save lives.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point that albeit they may be something that is draws people's attention and attraction to, because we love water, we love to see falls, we love to and we're in Bracebridge, of course, have so many falls and so many vistas to see. But at the same time, people have to respect the fact that these are operational facilities, and as you pointed out, they're remotely operated. So at any given time, some operational maneuver, some operational activity can happen without people really recognizing or appreciating what's going on.
Absolutely. Everyone needs to keep in mind these are live hydroelectric operating stations, and they are fully operational.
Yeah. So let's. I appreciate the kind of more general piece about water safety. We do have the South Falls in Bracebridge, which again offer people some interesting vistas and photo opportunities and things like that. But at the same time, South Falls is an active facility. So maybe you can share with us, although it's a beautiful spot to get that great photo and experience in Muskoka, what is it that is both appealing but also potentially dangerous about particularly the South Falls?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. South Falls is absolutely stunning. It's nature's beauty right there, and you really get a wonderful demonstration of the power of water. But the risk comes in that water flows can change very quickly and with little to no notice. You'll have a siren go off, and that means it's going to change. Strong currents exist near the station. You have slippery rocks, uneven terrain. Even if it looks peaceful right in that moment where it's very tranquil and beautiful, conditions can change very rapidly.
Yeah, and that's important. It's great to great vistas, great to look at from a distance safely, respecting that there is signage around that facility that provides folks with notice that they're in areas that could be dangerous and to keep out of those specific areas. And those are there for a reason. They're there for making sure that the public is very much aware that, as you pointed out earlier, this is an operational, active hydroelectric generating station, and activities around that can happen without notice at all. So, I love the approach that, hey, we recognize that this is a beautiful piece of Muskoka, but also you have to be very cautious. And your point about getting close to the water, slippery rocks, unknown conditions. We want people to come to Muskoka. We want people to come to Bracebridge. We want people that live here to enjoy the beauty of Muskoka, but we want to be able to do that safely.
Absolutely. Enjoy the beauty, but you have to respect the power of the water. Stay in the designated safe viewing areas. Please follow the posted signage. Keep a distance from that infrastructure. If I can really imprint on anyone, no photo or putting yourself into a dangerous situation is worth your life.
Absolutely. I know it. I think that's the perfect point. Is that and we're in a society now where people are looking for social media photos, that TikTok photo or that Pinterest photo or whatever it might be, and sometimes they will take undue risk to get those photos, and we just want people to be aware that the signage is there for a reason, the fencing's there for a reason, and respect that. Because on the other side of that fence, on the other side of that signage is potential for some danger, and we want people to be safe and as you say, enjoy the vista, enjoy the spot, but not put themselves at risk.
Absolutely, yeah.
What would from your perspective as manager of the Gravenhurst office, what would you want people to know about what you do, what your work team does? Just give us some of your thoughts of what you'd like to share with our listeners today, our viewers today, on what OPG and specifically the Gravenhurst office and your team do on a day-to-day stuff.
I just love to say that our teams, we live and we work in these communities. We're proud to generate clean, renewable generating, I'm sorry about that, but clean, renewable energy for the people of Ontario, while helping keeping our waterways safe and sustainable for everyone to enjoy.
Yeah, and we really do appreciate, as I said on the lead-in, have had the opportunity to meet you in the past through various activities with the town, and really do appreciate OPG's partnership as a stakeholder in our community, and OPG has always been willing and able and at any opportunity to answer questions, support what we were doing as a municipality. We also hope that we're able to continue to support OPG and what they're doing. And I think we're both on the same page when it comes to safety around our waterways. This today was an opportunity to share a little bit about those risks and what people need to be aware of. And hopefully, again, we get through another wonderful summer where people are able to enjoy our communities, enjoy our wonderful waterfalls, enjoy the experiences of getting back and close to nature, but they do that safely and recognizing that these pieces of infrastructure are there operating and have inherent dangers to them if people don't follow the right signs and obey the rules.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know if you had any final thoughts before we kind of wrap up, but Dave, I really appreciate that you taking some time to come in today and chat about what OPG does, specifically the Gravenhurst office, and what we can do as collectively to make sure that we're focused on safety around these facilities.
No, I really appreciate that. Enjoyed coming down and talking to you today, and just the most important message that I can leave with everyone today is just please follow the signs, listen to them. They're there to protect you.
Yeah, well, that's a great message to leave with. Dave, appreciate the time, and look forward to other opportunities when we can invite you in and we can chat about what's happening with OPG in our community.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Appreciate it. I'm joined with a first-time guest who says he's a long-time listener and first-time guest, so that's good to hear, which is Alex Mulholland. Alex is the Chief Building Official for the town of Bracebridge. Alex, welcome to Abridged.
Thanks for having me. I got to say, though, a little note of disappointment here because I am a longtime listener, and I see that sometimes you've had puppies and dogs running around on the podcast, and I was sort of hopeful today that I'd have an emotional support puppy for our chat, but maybe next time.
CBOs have that emotional side to them. We'll make sure we get that puppy in for you the next time.
I appreciate that. I almost brought my own dog, but I don't think you would behave well enough for this. So.
Well, Alex, it's great to have you on Abridged, and I tell you, our building department, and particularly your department as the CBO, is a busy department, and for you to take some time today to join us in Abridged, absolutely appreciate it.
Happy to.
And so today we wanted to take the next bit of time to talk about a updated bylaw for the town of Bracebridge. 2008, the town of Bracebridge established a tree cutting bylaw, and just last year in 2025, we updated that bylaw. Tell us a little bit about the tree cutting bylaw. What's new to the tree cutting bylaw? What's the kind of purpose behind a tree cutting bylaw?
Sure. Maybe first for a little bit of context. So to start, the province and the district actually both have their own tree regulations, but they're really focused on forestry, really large operations, things of that nature. So this is where the town's bylaw comes in, and our bylaw is really focused on preserving our natural heritage and on protecting our shorelines. Two of the really big kind of pushes from council and yourself in general and stabilizing our environment. So that's what our tree bylaw comes in to do. It regulates trees, larger trees over 8 inches in diameter, and only healthy trees. But that's the focus of that. It's kind of protecting those environmentally sensitive areas.
And so the new bylaw, almost 20 years since the first bylaw came out, 17 years. What would we see in the new bylaw that has changed from the original maturation of our bylaw?
Yeah, and with so many years on our old bylaw, staff obviously had a lot of feedback on what was working and what didn't. And one of the biggest problems that we had was communications. So, and that's a two-way street. So first, us being able to clearly notify the public of what they were able and required to do. But most importantly, for the public to be able to notify us both when they were taking down trees and if they were, concerned that trees were being taken down inappropriately. So really the fundamental change that we put in there was just a simple requirement for notification to come to staff when you're removing healthy trees so that we're able to first ensure that they're not endangered or otherwise protected trees, but also so that we're aware when we get those complaints or concerns in from the public that we can say, no, we're aware of that and those trees are okay to take down. And I think part of what we really wanted to do to improve that is we didn't attach any fees to this process, so that's an entirely free process. And we created a neat little app working with the district that we're all quite proud of. It's just started though, so early days there. But that allows somebody to very simply just log in, take a photo of the tree, indicate this is why I'm taking it down. Maybe it's close to their house, maybe it's in a dangerous situation. And within 24 hours, we send them back the thumbs up and say, go ahead, take that down. And we're able to track it and see that whole process, and again, free of charge.
Interesting, much easier, no fee attached to it, much easier to notify. With the bylaw, there are exemptions in the bylaw, and maybe you can share, because not every tree that needs to come down or is coming down needs to have that full process. There's a notification process, but I'll use the example of 2025's ice storm. We had a lot of trees come down, right? Yeah. And they were hazardous trees in many respects, and people had to clean up their properties. So there was no kind of requirement under the bylaw that would be an exemption type of thing. So maybe talk a little bit about some of those exemptions and what the resident is required to do, even with the exemption piece.
Sure. Yeah, and that's a really good point. And something that we focused on a lot was, unfortunately, with the weather events we have, the floods, the ice storm, things of that nature, we do regularly have dangerous situations with trees, and we don't want to impede that. So something that was really carefully crafted is the ability for, in those situations, you have an arborist come out and say, this tree has got to go. Again, ice storm's a good example. They are cleared to take it down based on their professional opinion immediately. We want them to immediately rectify that dangerous situation. We just ask that they notify us within 48 hours. Again, that free notification through the portal, just so, again, we're able to track these things, verify that it indeed did need to come down, and, again, to respond. So if we get concerns or complaints in, we're able to say, we're aware of that. That's okay. So I think that was a really important piece for us, was to grant those carve-outs. There's actually a number of them, so there's critical and major damage trees. Infestations, unfortunately, we do deal with those. Invasive trees is another example. And I think some of the ones that really a lot of property owners would probably be most interested in are things like the exemption for trees near a house or trees near a septic. For similar reasons, we don't want to end up in a situation where somebody has a really large tree adjacent to their house. They feel they're not able to take it down. That tree fails onto their building, causes serious damage. So built into the bylaw are a number of those exemptions. And actually, in part of that, right now, it's a little bit of a tangent. We have our septic reinspection program going on. So one of our students is out around the town verifying that septics are in good shape. And part of their work is they're actually bringing communications out, door knockers as we call them, leaving them with residents, because if they do have, say, their septic system and some trees have started to grow in really close proximity to it, we do recommend that they clear that back to a point to protect that system and protect the adjacent environment. So all of those exemptions are built right in. And again, all we ask is that a notification come to us saying, we're going to be clearing this area around our septic. Send that in, totally free of charge. We give you back the thumbs up within 24 hours, and you can take those steps.
There's also in the bylaw a difference between rural and urban applications of the bylaw. So maybe explain the differences and how the bylaw applies differently to the rural area of Bracebridge and the urban.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. So our bylaw in Bracebridge is focused entirely on the environmental protection area, the urban center, and waterfront. And so with that in mind, we completely exempt all rural properties outside of the urban center. So in those areas, the only regulations of any kind that would apply are, again, those district or provincial ones. So the protection of endangered trees, or obviously if you're running a forestry operation, things like that, they're regulated at that sort of higher tier. But our bylaw is just focused on those urban center areas and those really sensitive environmental areas along our waterfront that we're trying to protect. Part of an important Bracebridge heritage, so to speak, is our waterfront. So.
Yeah, the value of vegetated shoreline, and the importance, I guess, of vegetated shorelines when it comes to, we've had flood events where, shorelines have been, under a lot of pressure and in many cases have been saved because of vegetation protection around them.
Yeah, and that erosion is a real problem that we have. Definitely part of where we work sort of hand in glove as best as we can with the Ministry of Natural Resources, because they actually regulate those direct water areas and that direct piece of shoreline, whereas we sort of take over at the private property. So we're often in communications, unfortunately, when events like that happen or when shoreline is cleared inappropriately. And it can have a really devastating effect both on the stabilization of the shore, but also just on habitat for wildlife and species and all those reasons that people visit Bracebridge and Muskoka in general.
Absolutely. So that kind of leads into the enforcement piece of the bylaw and, I'll allow you to kind of explain the approach that your department has on that enforcement piece. Maybe you can explain what kind of lens you use when it comes to how the bylaw is enforced.
Sure. So maybe to start here, I can say as well, part of our communication piece is we have launched a new portal. So people are able to log in online and submit any complaints or concerns they might have if they feel that there's clearing of shoreline or trees being taken down inappropriately. And that really has helped us. The old style before this was launched was it was phone call or email based. And oftentimes by the time those communications got to us, it was too late. Things had already been done. So we've seen a real improvement in the speed of our response and the ability to sort of track and respond to things with that. So that's been quite helpful. But I think besides that, our general approach has always been the same. So it starts with investigation. It moves to, educating the property owners about the requirements. And our first big step is always to work towards remediation. So one important aspect of this bylaw is it allows us to issue remedial orders. So instead of just showing up and saying, you shouldn't have taken that tree down, here's a ticket for taking that tree down, but nothing is solved, the tree is gone. In those situations where there's a real problem, we can go in and say, look, you weren't meant to take these down, you've destabilized your shoreline, whatever it might be, and actually require that trees be replanted in certain areas to help, revegetate or restabilize those areas. So that's really our first approach. Luckily, in the last number of years here, 2-3 years, we've had very few that have had to escalate beyond that. Most property owners, when they become aware of what they need to do and understand that there isn't a very large expense with these remedial actions and they can reinstate the beautiful state of their shoreline prior to, we generally have pretty good compliance with that. So, so that's been really our approach, I think, since the start, and so far, so good.
Well, that's good. So maybe just share a little bit about that process. I have read the bylaw. I have a tree on my property that I wish to remove. You mentioned the portal and how you do that. Maybe just kind of walk us through that process and what is required from the resident, and then what does your department do in response to that, getting that request?
Sure. So first thing I always recommend whenever I get a call from any resident and they don't know what step to take is send us a notification first. So if you go to our website, it's just bracebridge.ca/trees, and you'll see an option there to submit a notification. If you aren't sure is this a tree that's not subject to this? Do I need to get a true permit to remove this, or can I just send a notification? Just start by sending us a notification. And again, that process is on your smartphone. You go to the website. It opens a really short form. You can take a picture of the tree. You can put your address in, why you think you need to remove it. It's damaged. It's close to my house, whatever it might be. And you send that to us. And then on the staff side, we have a really neat little portal that shows us a map of the town, shows us pins of where these have come up. We can really quickly look at it and say, yes, you're clear to take that, or no, you're not. And the vast majority of cases, the notification is sufficient. So far in the last month, we've had about 20, maybe 21 notifications. Only one of those didn't actually fit into the criteria of an exemption. And in those rare cases, that would typically be a healthy tree over 8 inches in diameter that isn't otherwise exempt. Then generally we'll require just an actual tree permit. It's a minimal fee, around $150 or $200. And again, kind of more the exception than the rule. And normally the reason that we go that tree permit route in those rare circumstances is if it is, I'll use the term heritage tree, though that is a defined term, but it's a beautiful tree. It's a larger tree in town. We can say, you can take that down, but perhaps you need to plant another tree elsewhere on your property just to sort of offset that. So that general process, regardless of whether it's notifications or permit, typically 24 to 48 hours.
So it's a quick turnaround.
It's a quick turnaround. And so far, like I said, that opportunity to communicate with people prior to taking the action really helps. I think in two ways. Sometimes people don't realize that they can do what they need to do within these exemptions, and they're allowed to, and there's no cost to it. And so they can take those steps to protect their house, to protect their septic system. But also that allows us to track these things and ensure that we're not losing any of the really beautiful trees or important trees along our shoreline that are doing so much to protect our environment. So
yeah, that's a great point. One point that you raised that we hadn't maybe emphasized, the bylaw has kind of a limit on the diameter, so maybe just mention that too. It's not every tree you need to permit for.
No, it's a really good point. Thanks for bringing that up. So 8 inches is the magic number, and we call it chest height. So it's imagine putting your hands out in front of you around chest height, and if it's 8 inches in diameter, it is regulated by the bylaw. It doesn't mean necessarily that you need a permit or not. Again, the notification process there, but everything below that 8-inch diameter is strictly not regulated by the bylaw. So that is one sort of kind of important piece there. That's true whether it's damaged, infested, close to a septic system, or any other reason that you might be bringing it down.
Yeah. And you did mention the link, www.bracebridge.ca/trees.
You got it.
To get to the portal. If there's folks out there that have questions, what can they do?
Best place, trees@bracebridge.ca. Give us an email. So we have a dedicated email for that because we do get these kind of questions in frequently for good reason. Show up to our counter. I'm always happy to have a chat. Forgive me if I'm a little busy and I make you wait a few minutes, but it is that time of year. But always happy to just have folks come in and chat. We're really big advocates for the communication piece. We really like when people reach out to us. We do our best to get back quickly. You're also welcome to phone in, though, as you can imagine, being that we are a building branch and we work with our planning staff regularly, we're often in the field.
Yeah.
Or occasionally get the pleasure to sit down and do a podcast.
Yep.
So there's other reasons we might be in the office. So if I always recommend the email route just because you'll get a prompt reply and you've got it in writing and now you have some direction.
Great.
Also, the trees website, we put a bit of work into that after the bylaw was actually passed to hopefully give a fair bit of information there, some sort of graphical and visual things. So there's a lot of good information there. Feel free to read through it. But absolutely, if you have any questions or something you're just not quite sure, give us an email. Or frankly, if you're just not quite sure if this particular tree is good to take down, just send us a notification and we'll reply back to you really quickly and let you know.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. One thing that just came to my mind that just before we wrap up, relationships with local arborists. Are they aware of the bylaw?
Yes and no. So one of the and I've got written down here in my important notes, early days. So as this bylaw just came out, what we're currently in the process of doing is our communications campaign.
Yeah.
So several of our arborists, and in Bracebridge, a fairly small community, but there still are quite a number of arborists. Some are very aware and are submitting notifications regularly or on the horn with us regularly. Part of what we have rolling out in the coming week or two here, and so maybe by the time this is actually released, is formal communications going out to some of our bigger companies. And so what we're actually going to be distributing, which I think should be hopefully helpful for them, but we'll see, is essentially a little thing you can hang on your rearview mirror with a QR code. So if an arborist is out in their truck and they need to drop a tree, whether it's an emergency or whether it's planned, they can just scan the QR code, they go to our app, they submit the reason for the notification, and they send it, and then they do their job.
Great.
So those are going out very shortly.
Yeah.
So it'll be trial at the start, as all things, and we'll refine it and listen to that feedback and hopefully smooth out the process.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I don't want folks to think that they've hired an arborist, so they should be good. They still are the property owner. They still have the responsibility.
You got it.
And knowing that there is a tree bylaw, the first question you should be asking your arborist is, you're aware that there is a bylaw, and do you take care of that, or do I take care of that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly, yeah.
And same thing like before is that if their arborist is unaware or it's somebody we haven't gotten in touch with yet, put them in touch with us. We're happy to fill them in.
Great. Well, Alex, absolutely appreciate that you've taken some time to join me today on Abridged, and I know that your office, particularly spring, summer, is a busy office, and I know that you've got lots to do, so I don't want to hold you up anymore, but do look for future opportunities where you can come in and share a little bit about what's happening in your department and new initiatives and new opportunities out of our building department. Appreciate it.
There's a lot going on in the future, so I hope you'll be back soon.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, take care.
That's a wrap on this episode of Abridged. Thanks to my guests for taking the time to join me today. This podcast was produced in the Dr. Ted Joe recording studio at the Colson Family Bracebridge Library. Thanks for listening, and be sure to join me on our next episode where we talk everything Bracebridge.
This podcast was produced by North Star Networks, the guiding light for progressive media.